Bienvenidos a la novena clase de este curso de inglés avanzado completamente gratis. I upload a new video every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you subscribe to my channel to receive notifications. And don't forget to check out my Facebook group where you can download all of my resources, including this presentation, for free. Today we're focusing on literary aspects of English, including negative or limiting adverbials, fronting, and participle clauses. Let's begin. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be looking at in our literary writing special is negative or limiting adverbials, or inversion as it's also known. This is a really long, fancy name for something that's really not that complicated. So in most advanced English grammar books, you're going to find this topic called something like this: inversion after negative or limiting adverbials, okay? What are we talking about? We're talking about changing the structure of sentences that include these adverbs. For example, never, hardly or hardly ever, no, rarely, seldom, barely, and not often. We can, if we want to, change the order of these sentences. Let me show you what I mean. Here are 5 sentences using these adverbs, okay? I hardly ever speak to him. I rarely have time. We had never met someone so interesting. He won't often get up early, and they seldom went to church. So we have examples in present perfect, in past, in present, in future. Look at this. This is what we call inversion after negative or limiting adverbials. So look at this. Hardly ever do I speak to him. Okay, you might look at that and think that is weird. Stuart told me, and all of my previous teachers told me, that with adverbs of frequency, it goes subject, adverb of frequency, and then verb. But here, it's all messed up, okay? I rarely have time. Rarely do I have time. We had never met someone so interesting. Never had we met someone so interesting. He won't often get up early. Not often will he get up early, and they seldom went to church. Seldom did they go. Okay. For tenses where you don't already have an auxiliary verb, you have to add one, okay? For tenses where you have an auxiliary verb, you just have to change the order of stuff, okay? So look at this. We had never met someone. Never had we met. So you already have the auxiliary verb had with the past perfect, right? So we're just switching the order around a little bit. Never had we met. The same with the won't. We already have an auxiliary of will there, will not. So here it's will and not. We're just separating them. Okay? So this is inversion. Inversion, which means changing the order of things after negative or limiting adverbials. You look at all of these adverbs. We have never, hardly ever, rarely, seldom. These are pretty negative. Okay? Why do you need to know this? Well, you probably don't need to know how to do this, right? It's not important for you to know as an English student how to do this. But it is important that you understand that sometimes writers will write like this, especially in books, novels, okay? You will see this structure and you will think, that doesn't make sense. What's going on? Why is there a do here? Well, it's a do because it's an auxiliary, all right? It doesn't actually mean hacer, it's just do as an auxiliary. So even though you don't need to know how to do it, what is the formula? What do you think the formula is looking here? Obviously, first you have your adverb, and then what are these? Did, will, had, do. What are they? Yes, they're auxiliaries. And then we have I, we, he, they, the subject, and then go, get, met, have, speak, the verb. So we have adverb, an auxiliary, a subject, and a verb. Rarely do I have time, for example. Again, you don't need to know how to do this yourself, okay? You just need to understand what's going on here. Why do people do this? Why do authors, sobre todo authors, escritores, why do they do this? For dramatic effect, to change things around, to emphasize hardly ever or rarely or never. A few different reasons, but no concrete single reason, okay? It's just a different structure. So you can see here in this example, rarely do I, instead of I do, it's inverted, right? The auxiliary and the subject are switched around. That's why it's called inversion. Inversion after a negative or limiting adverb, like rarely, okay? If you like to read in English, then you will definitely come across sentences like this in your novels. But this is much more common, okay? Your 95% of the time people are going to be speaking like this, and you might hear somebody say something like this very rarely, okay? Here's an exercise for you. I would like you to invert these. So I want you to put the adverb first. Remember, follow this formula. Then the auxiliary, depending on the tense that it is. Remember, if it's present simple or past simple, you might need to add the auxiliary verb. Then the subject, and then a verb. I'll give you the first one. I have seldom studied for exams. Seldom have I studied. Okay? So stop the video and do the other 4. Here are the answers. 3, 2, 1. I never spent time on that. That's past tense. So we're going to be using an auxiliary verb. Never did I spend. Never did I spend time on that. Remember, because we're using did as an auxiliary, this becomes present tense, right? Did I spend? We hardly ever go out for dinner. Hardly ever do we go out for dinner. He will rarely tell me anything. Rarely will he tell. They don't often come here anymore. Not often do they. There are 1 or 2 examples that are culturally very common. For example, if you've seen this series on Netflix, it's called Never Have I Ever. Never have I. Never have I ever. Okay, so that's actually a very common expression in English, and it's actually a game, right? I have never ever, or I have never been to Paris. People say never ever colloquially. It's not actually technically good. Never ever. Ever just means in your whole life. Never means never in your whole... I mean, it's the same thing. Never have I ever been to Paris. So the game, especially in American culture, everybody sits in a circle and normally they're drinking alcohol. And one person says, never have I ever kissed another girl, for example, if a girl says that. And all of the girls who have done that, they have to drink. Okay? And everybody laughs and says, oh, you kissed a girl, and so on. Okay? Never have I ever. It's a game. A drinking game, normally, in America especially. But it is a good example of inversion after a negative auxiliary. The person could just say, I have never kissed another girl, but the expression is, never have I ever. Okay, so yeah, you can invert after a negative or limiting adverb, that rarely. But if you saw our class on adverbs and adverbials, you'll know there's a difference, right? An adverb normally is 1 or 2, maximum 2 words. An adverbial might be a longer phrase, okay? So, a lot of longer negative or limiting adverbials appear in sentences with not. What do I mean? Look at this example. You shouldn't go under any circumstances. Under any circumstances is a long negative or limiting adverbial, right? It's a long one. And it's in a sentence with not. Okay, you should not go, you shouldn't go under any circumstances. Here's another one. That wasn't fair. That wasn't fair in any way, shape, or form. Actually, that in any way, shape, or form is an expression in English. It's very common. That wasn't fair in any way, shape, or form. Was not fair. Okay? So, naturally, they use any. These 2 adverbials have any because there's already a not in the sentence. And you remember in English, we can't have a double negative, right? So, if we want to invert them, and again, we don't need to do this. You don't have to do this in English. Don't worry about it. But when you see this inverted, you will see 2 big differences. Here we go. Any changes to no, and shouldn't changes to should. Okay? Why? Well, because this negative, this not, is already here. Under no circumstances should you go. So looking at how the first one has changed, I want you to look at the second one, that wasn't fair in any way, shape, or form, and to change that for me, following the same kind of rules that you see here. The any changes to no, and the wasn't changes to was. All right? I'm going to tell you the answer in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Stop the video. Here it comes. In no way, shape or form was that fair. Okay? So there you have successfully inverted this sentence with its negative or limiting adverbial. So, apart from under any circumstances and in any way, what other adverbials fall into this category of negative or limiting? Well, there aren't very many, okay? In English, there's not that many. These are some of the more common ones. Other or special examples of longer adverbials that normally use inversion, okay? So often you will see these. Only then did we realize what she had done, or only at that moment. So this is very commonly seen in English. If you're speaking about only then, fue en ese momento, or solo fue en ese momento que nos dimos cuenta. In English, you would have to say, only then did we realize. So again, that's following the same structure. Auxiliary, subject, verb. Okay? Only then did we realize. Check it out. This is from the movie Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, I think it's called. The Dark Knight Rises, with Bane, this villain. And he has just beaten Batman and broken his back. And he says, only then, when Gotham is burning, only then will you have my permission to die. So check that out. Only then, auxiliary, subject, verb. Okay? No sooner. No sooner had they arrived than the telephone rang. No sooner than, this is kind of a weird one, but it's quite common in English too. No sooner had they arrived than the telephone rang. What that means is the telephone rang exactly at the same time they arrived. Okay, there is no difference in time. That's what that one means. No sooner had they arrived than the telephone rang. No sooner had I bought my house than I discovered it had problems. Okay, so straight away, right away in the moment. Little do they know I have been smoking for years. So my parents think that I'm a very good boy, but little do they know I have been smoking for years. Little do they know, or little did they know, okay? That is a very, very common expression in English to say they didn't know, okay? Little did the teacher know I cheated on the test. Okay, so the teacher didn't know I cheated on the test. Never before had we tried snowboarding. For example, that's another one that's quite common. Never before had we tried. Okay, so these are four more other sort of special examples of longer adverbials that use inversion. These ones are very common to see in this form. So you remember in the first ones we looked at, it's much more common to see them in the regular form of subject, verb, object. And the inversion is actually quite rare, only in books. Well, in this case of only then, no sooner, little, and never before, is actually quite common to hear them in this way, this inverted structure. Okay, so that was negative or limiting adverbials, what's also known as inversion. Now I'd like to look at fronting. Now, some grammar sources call inversion after limiting or negative adverbials, what we just saw, the topic we just studied. Some grammar sources call that a type of fronting, all right? But the distinction is useful because other forms of fronting don't always change the subject-verb order. We're still talking about the same thing. We're talking about reorganizing a sentence for dramatic effect, okay? So, other types of fronting. Here we have a bunch of sentences which have a normal structure, okay? A gust of wind blew in through the window, okay? Subject, verb, object. A shadowy figure stood next to the car. There was an old rug under the table. The kitchen was particularly disgusting. My wallet was gone. A chat window popped up. The monster jumped out. The army marched onward. I don't know why she said that. He opened the chocolates immediately, and the wine was even better than the food. Okay, so here are these same sentences, but with fronting. So the parts that are in red are the parts that I'm going to put first, maybe for dramatic effect. In through the window blew a gust of wind. In through the window is a prepositional phrase of movement, okay? It's a phrase that has a preposition of movement, in through the window. So if I want to be dramatic or artistic, I can put that first. In through the window blew a gust of wind. Again, next to the car, that's preposition. So I can say next to the car stood a shadowy figure. There was an old rug under the table. So we can also use fronting for there was, there is, there are, there were. Under the table was an old rug. We don't have to say there. The kitchen was particularly disgusting. Particularly disgusting was the kitchen. My wallet was gone. Gone was my wallet. That's a past participle. A chat window popped up. It's just a preposition. Up popped a chat window. The monster jumped out. Out jumped the monster. The army marched onward. Onward marched the army. I don't know why she said that. Why she said that, I don't know, or I do not know. He opened the chocolates immediately. The chocolates he opened immediately. The wine was even better than the food. Even better than the food was the wine. So basically there is inversion in most of these sentences, and it doesn't always have to be a negative or limiting adverbial. When people are writing, when authors are writing, they can be very artistic in their expression, and they can mix the different parts of a sentence to create something new that has the same meaning. Okay? It might be a preposition like up or out, or a preposition of movement like in through the window, or next to the car is a preposition as well. Under is a preposition. This is an adverb-adjective combination, a past participle. These questions, actually this is quite common. Why she said that, I don't know. Why he did that, I do not know. Yeah, so there's all sorts of different ways that you can front. Okay, so there's not really a formula to follow because there's so many different options. Let's try an exercise. Go to point number 1 in the description to do the activity. So this is the page. This is just a blog page actually. Advanced Students of English as a Foreign Language. This has a lovely explanation of fronting again, and it has 4 different types that it explains in detail: prepositions, comparatives, objects, and nouns. So the ones that we've seen, for example, at the back of the room or next to the car, right? Even better than, so the food was better than the wine. Objects, the whiskey, so for example the chocolates in my examples, and noun clauses that she had been swimming. So there are quite a few other elements that can also be fronted. Okay, so lots and lots of things can be fronted in this way. And normally, when you front something, you have to invert the verb, or at least the auxiliary verb, and the subject. So here we have one exercise, which is quite good. It says, underline the elements you think have been fronted by clicking on them. So look here, it says, slowly he walked into the room. Okay, so slowly he walked into the room. He walked into the room slowly, or he slowly walked into the room would be the normal way of saying it. So I think slowly has been fronted. All right. Occupying almost the whole of one wall was an enormous fireplace. Okay, so that normally would be an enormous fireplace was occupying almost the whole of one wall. So I think this phrase is a prepositional phrase, has been fronted. Okay. And in front of the fire lay an equally enormous dog. Again, that should be an equally enormous dog lay in front of the fire. So that's been fronted too. Let me check those first 3. Okay, cool. So I have 3 correctly identified. And it says now try and find the other 17. Very cool exercise, and I think you should try it, okay? You can keep reading and going through this explanation and try these exercises too, using your intuition, okay? Check them, clear them, and so on. It's a really good page, lots of exercises, and you can probably spend a good couple of hours here just reading it and doing the exercises. Finish that first exercise, or the whole page if you want to, and I will see you in a moment. I hope that went well. Let's continue. Okay, so that was different types of fronting, and there's one more thing that I wanted to look at which is related to this, which is called the participle clauses, or rather fronting with participle clauses. Here we have 3 sentences. He bought her the book because he knew she loved vampires. Okay, so maybe he was in the store and he saw Twilight, Crepúsculo, and he bought it because he knew she loved vampires. She took an umbrella because she thought it might rain. Okay, and they decided to do it themselves as they figured it would be faster. So these have in common, he knew, she thought, they figured. These are verbs of the conscious mind thinking, right? This is what I'm talking about. Knowing she loved vampires, he bought her the book. Okay? So we've got rid of because, and we've changed he knew to knowing. I want you to do the same thing for the other two examples, okay? So stop the video, because here come the answers. 3, 2, 1. She took an umbrella because she thought it might rain. Thinking it might rain, she took an umbrella. They decided to do it themselves as they figured it would be faster. Figuring it would be faster, they decided to do it themselves. So these are quite common. These are quite common in writing and actually in normal speech, using these participle clauses. Other ones that are quite common include this, for example, considering. Considering is a very, very common one to use at the beginning of a sentence. Considering how hard it was the first time, considering our options, okay, basically this means after thinking about, okay? He felt it was a good result considering all that had happened. Considering all that had happened, he felt it was a good result. Either order is fine, no problem. So I just wanted to mention that because these three sentences up here, it's good examples of this kind of structure, which is actually quite common, not only in books and literature, but also actually in speaking, okay? Considering is very common in speech as well. So that's everything I wanted to see today with negative, limiting adverbials and fronting. But let's look at a song that includes some examples. So this song is called Never Ever. It's from 1997. It's from a girl group or girl band called All Saints. Okay. Now, these lyrics are they're okay, but the song is pretty catchy. It's of its time, let's say. It was good in the late 90s. But here there are quite a few examples of inversion after negative or limiting adverbials. Many in the chorus, but there's also one or two in the verses. Okay, so I want you to really look for those adverbs first, and then the inversion of an auxiliary and a subject after the adverb. Okay, stop the video and look for the examples because I'm going to tell you the Stop the video and look for the examples because I'm going to tell you the answers. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. We have 4 and a half, okay? Because this is kind of inversion. It is inversion, but there's no negative or limiting adverbial, and it's not correct, I suppose, because have I should be inverted. And even then it wouldn't make sense. So the order here is weird, but it's not technically inversion after a negative or limiting adverbial. Okay, so the lyrics. A few questions, unas preguntas that I need to know. Que necesito saber. How you could ever hurt me so. ¿Cómo me podías dañar tanto o lastimar tanto? I need to know what I've done wrong. Necesito saber qué hice mal and how long it's been going on. ¿Cuánto tiempo lo llevo haciendo? Was it that I never paid enough attention or did I not give you enough affection? ¿Era que no te prestaba suficiente atención o no te daba suficiente afección? Not only will your answers keep me sane, okay? No solo me mantendrán sano mentalmente tus respuestas, but I will know never to make the same mistake again. Pero sabré nunca volver a hacer el mismo error. Pero voy a saber nunca volver a hacer el mismo error. So, not only will your answers keep me sane, so it should be, your answers will keep me sane and I will know never to make the same mistake again. But this is a negative or limiting adverbial, not only. Will your answers. Will your answers. Your answers is the subject and will is the auxiliary. You can tell me to my face or even on the phone. Me puedes decir en la cara o por teléfono. Lo puedes escribir en una carta. You can write it in a letter. De cualquier forma, necesito saber. De cualquier forma, necesito saber. Either way, I have to know. Did I never treat you right? Nunca te traté bien o correctamente. Did I always start the fight? Siempre empecé yo la pelea. Either way, I'm going out of my mind. De cualquier forma, me estoy volviendo loca. All the answers to my questions I have to find. Tengo que encontrar todas las respuestas a mis preguntas. So that sentence is just a strange order. I think just so that mind and find can rimar, they can rhyme. My head's spinning. Boy, I'm in a daze. I'm in a daze. I feel isolated. I don't want to communicate. I'll take a shower. I will scour, which is like with metal, like really to rub, to find peace of mind. The happy mind I once owned. Yeah, so she's trying to figure out basically what she did wrong in her relationship. Okay. This blue text is the bridge. Flexing, vocabulario flexionante. It's weird. Runs right through me. The alphabet runs from A to Z. Conversations, hesitations in my mind. You got my conscience asking questions that I can't find. It's very... Siento que la letra fue escrita como para rimar nada más. I'm not crazy. I'm sure I haven't done anything wrong. Right, this is bad grammar. I'm just waiting because I heard that this feeling won't last that long, okay? So here we have the chorus in red. Never ever have I ever felt so low. So you can actually delete both of these evers, okay? Never have I felt so low. Or just delete this one. Never have I ever felt so low, okay? So I think they've included the ever twice here just to fill out the beats in the song so that it's 8 bars, right? When you're going to take me out of this black hole, okay? Never ever have I ever felt so sad. Tan triste, right? Tan bajo, tan triste. The way I'm feeling, yeah, you got me feeling really bad. Never ever have I had to find my own peace of mind, to dig to find my own peace of mind. I've never ever had my conscience to fight. The way I'm feeling, yeah, I just don't feel right. So, lots of examples. I say lots. 4 examples. 4 examples of inversion after a negative or limiting adverbial. Okay? Then there's a little verse and then another bridge and then they repeat the chorus like 4 times. It's okay. It's not a bad song. Idioms for today. We have 3. Barking up the wrong tree, cry over spilt milk, and hit the nail on the head. Okay? 3 completely different idioms. So, barking up the wrong tree, literally, if you imagine a cat in a tree, okay, and a dog is on the tree like this, and he's barking, he's barking up the tree, right? Because he thinks the cat is in this tree, but actually the cat is in the other tree. So the dog is barking up the wrong tree. So it's the same thing for if you're going after an idea, but somebody else thinks that idea is the wrong idea and you should be going after a different idea. So you would say you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay, that's the wrong idea. All right? So say, for example, you think I'm responsible for something and you're telling me, hey, you took my... I said, no, you're barking up the wrong tree. I am not responsible for this. Okay? It's somebody else. So you're going after the wrong idea. To cry over spilt milk. Okay, so milk, if you imagine leche en un vaso, when it's spilt, pues ya está hecho la cosa, no? O sea, like, it's done. There's no point crying, oh no, my milk. There's no point crying over it because it's already spilt. You just have to clean it up and move on, okay? So there is no point crying over things which are done, they're finished, and you can't change them, okay? What's done is done. Lo hecho es. And hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the point. You've hit the nail on the head. So a nail, un clavo, tiene un cuerpito, no sé cómo se dice en español, the long part and the head. And when you're hitting the nail, you can miss, bang, bang, and then you hit the nail on the head. That means you've hit the point exactly, okay? So if you say something that's extremely relevant or is the point of the conversation, then somebody can say to you, yes, you have hit the nail on the head. That is specifically the point, okay? You've hit the nail on the head. That is exactly right. Wow, okay, so that is the end of Advanced English, okay? So we have seen together the subjunctive in English, and we looked at dynamic instative verbs in a review. We've also seen the future seen from the past, and a little look at compound adjectives. We looked at verb collocations and preposition collocations, a big class on collocations. Class number 4, we did a review of the past quickly, but then we looked at special uses of the past. Class number 5, we started to look at opinions, how to acknowledge an opinion from somebody else and then agree or disagree politely, formally, and then informally as well on Twitter, right? Class number 6, we looked at discourse markers. So how to mark and divide your speech so that it flows nicely. Class 7, we looked at paraphrasing, how to paraphrase, informal and academic. In class 8, the last class, we looked at academic writing, specifically hedging, how to be neutral when you're writing or speaking in an academic setting. And today we looked at literary, specifically literary writing with inversion, fronting and so on. Not that you necessarily need to know how to do it, but so that you recognize it when you see it. And that's it. That's the end of the advanced level of my course. I should say there are many other topics which we haven't studied in these courses. I selected what I consider to be, in my experience as a teacher, the most important and the most relevant grammatical points and language points for you to be able to understand English in written form or in spoken form when you see it, when you hear it, when you read it. But of course there are other things which you can learn, and I'm sure there are other grammar courses which include a lot more stuff than I've done. But if you did all of my classes, that means you've been through 45 English classes with me. And if you did all of the exercises and all of the exams, that means you must have been studying English with me for many, many hours. And I hope it was useful for you. If you have any questions or doubts about anything, you can contact me by leaving a comment underneath the video or by writing to me through the Facebook page, which you will find obviously in the description every time I upload a video. But in terms of grammar courses, basic, intermediate, and so on, that's it for me. I am done. I've finished 45 classes, and now I plan to do videos which are a little bit more fun. Some videos about common errors, some videos about idioms, instructional English videos, of course, but with a bit more of a fun twist and a bit less formal and exercises and exams, okay? I might come back to it in the future. And I should mention, if you are watching this video in 2021 or later, then in the description of this video, you will find a link to a teachable course, which basically will help you to prepare, find, and get a job where you need to speak English, maybe in your home country or maybe in a foreign country. The course will take you through how to search for a job, how to write a CV, how to write a covering letter, how to prepare for an interview, how to answer questions in an interview, and how to correspond via email and via video chat with somebody from the United States, from Canada, from the UK, Australia. And the idea is that I can help you get a job. Fingers crossed. So yeah, if it's 2021 or later, click the link below in the description and you will find the course and a sample, and you can decide if you want to go ahead and buy it or not. Okay? But here on my YouTube channel, it's just going to be fun videos from now on, hopefully some collaborations with some other teachers that I know, and the content should always be good, so make sure you keep your subscription and keep checking out what I upload. For the final time, thank you for studying English with me, and I will see you for the next video, whatever that is.